Hello everybody and welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown channel. Today we're here to find out if Elliot Anderson could be the next £100 million midfielder. Okay, welcome back to the show. Again, joined by the great Neil Harris, and we're here today to talk about Elliot Anderson, who will be playing for England in and around when this goes out. We don't know yet, but yeah, this is a player who I've wanted to speak about for a long time. I got a few really good messages off some fans who support Nottingham Forest, and who were like, "This lad is different gravy." And me and Neil have spent the better part of 3 days, just watching everything about him. And we've come away from it, especially me. I'm a bit there with Elliot Anderson at the moment. But just to keep in mind how good Elliot Anderson has been this season, obviously everyone knows, called up for England, given his first start in the first game he was in the camp for. But in the Premier League for central midfielders this season, most touches, most passes into the final third, most ball wins, most duels won, most take-ons completed, which is actually fitting for what me and you kind of think about him as a player. But just off the top, how highly do you rate this lad?
So when you sense him, obviously we watch football matches, and you obviously watch it from a tactical perspective. I definitely watch it from an individual player perspective, given my background. So I was really interested to have a proper deep dive on him. And it was funny because I went a little bit like that, being honest, because that's what we're there for. I was watching him sometimes thinking, he's quite scruffy in the way that he plays. And then I'd be like, oh no, but that's really effective. And then by the end of it, I was like, I really like him, because I think what we see now in a lot of academy players, and I'm sure people that watch this, will be privy to the academy system and also the Premier League, is we see a lot of big physical 6'1", 6'2" players who can move, who are quick. He's 5'10". I wouldn't say he's naturally the quickest. I'm sure if you put him in there with some of the England players in and around him there, but he's effective. And from my coaching background, is a player effective? And how is he effective? What I love about him is that there doesn't seem to be, I've watched all this footage of him, and I've watched the game, I've watched 3 full games, and I've watched individual footage of him, and no same game he plays the same way. The clips are different all the time, so he's very comfortable coming and getting it in a 6. He's he's always shown for the ball, wherever it is, whether he's supporting behind the ball, on the ball, off the ball, away from the ball. But he always wants to show from there. He loves recycling the ball. He loves passing the football. He loves passing the football. He's got a great punch pass, Roy Keane-esque on his pass from there. But he plays off the cuff. Nothing seems, scripted with him as such. And he knows, right, I need to be here. I think he's got that little bit of license, whether he's playing in 260s, whether he's playing a little bit further forward, to have that license to maybe be that street footballer in a way. And I think, you think about where he's come from. He's obviously
Geordie lad.
He's a Geordie lad. He's part of that famous Wallsend boys club that obviously had Shearer, Carrick, Lee Clark, Steve Watson. I'm going to miss one out here. Go on, what have I got? Steve Bruce, Peter Beardsley. Not too bad. Apologies, Bruce. So that famous. So he's got that pedigree, hasn't he? And that tough rawness about him and things. But I really liked him. We'll go into detail of some of the things I really like now. But just from a deep dive watch, I like him, and it's funny because as a coach, I was getting excited as a coach watching him, thinking, oh, I'd love him to do that. And what's next for him in terms of the next thing, and talking about 100 million, maybe. Yeah.
No, do you know what? When I was researching him, I love all action midfielders. I think they're sort of the best breed. I think you can plug and play really with him, like you just said there. He doesn't really play the same way from game to game, and I love the fact that you could probably drop him into any big team. We've seen him play for England, and he plays single 6, 100 passes a game, dictates long balls, ball runs, everything, and he just seems to adapt to whatever he comes into. And I think I've actually got a few quotes from Tuchel that says, very good football player, he has the physicality, he's a very mobile 6. He mentioned the word mobile a good 2-3 times in the same answer, which again alludes to what we're saying, which is he's not the tallest, he's not got the most physically imposing, but he's active on and off the ball. So many times, players stood in front of the centre-half blocking, he just shifts everywhere. He's never hiding from the ball. Always very animated player on the pitch, always going like that, organising the pitch around him, can drop in there, can just show for the ball everywhere. And I love that essence of, I'm going to solve the problem, I'm going to get the ball there. I've got a few game screenshots actually to show you what I mean by this. And I've got this one against Bournemouth. Now, Savona, who's playing right back, has took a bit of a bad touch, and he's sort of plucked the ball with the bottom side of his foot with his studs, killed the ball, and he's looked at Savona as if he's going to play just a natural wall pass off him. And Semenyo has then bit on that and tried to jump out to press, and he's snapped the ball into the right winger. And he doesn't even look at the right winger in this sequence. He's just, as you said there, off the cuff. And I really like his disguise on the ball. I think he's got the build to be able to carry with the ball, which I think offers that sort of corridor of uncertainty where he could pass it, but he could also get past me. Yeah. And I love the way he plays off the cuff. I think for me, I think there's a lot to like about him. I think he's very all action, can probably tackle, intercept, win the ball back. But I think the passing is where I look at him and I go, he's a real danger on the ball in terms of creating moves and setting the team off and changing the tempo. And I just thought, I watched the Bournemouth, Manchester United and Sunderland's game, and I thought he was exceptional in all of them.
Well, just on that, so I made sure I watched the Arsenal game because I thought the best team in the league. I want to see how you're doing in that, that midfield there, and I thought he was very good. Manchester United game, and then obviously his most recent game with Leeds and the England Latvia game, which he had the start of the most passes by an England player since 2018, I think it was.
Something like that.
We'll find it, we'll put it up. 2008.
Yeah, that just shows so hungry to pass the ball. Yeah. England have played them teams before. England have had 75% of the ball before. But in terms of his demand to be on the ball all the time, I think he just wants to play.
Well, for me, as a coach, he's a coach's dream. I'm pretty sure he's a defender's dream, a fullback's dream, a winger's dream, and a centre forward's dream, and a number 10 in Gibbs White. Because, like you said there, he's always shown for it. He actually he puts himself into uncomfortable positions. Which again, going back to the coaching aspects of it, when we want our midfielders, we want them to be uncomfortable. We can't make it be easy all the time for them. We want them to be uncomfortable, but he will come and look for the ball. I think the highest compliment that we can make to him there is that Tuchel has said he's a mobile six, played him in that single pivot to allow potentially, one of the best sixes at the moment in the Premier League and midfielders in Rice to change his role. Not many international managers will tweak potentially one of the best midfielders in the country just to get him in. So he's tweaked that because he wants that. I think that more control. And if you go back to the last couple of tournaments, with England, that lack of control at the time, yes, scoring goals at vital times, but that lack of control in games that he might really bring now with Rice in there. And if you think probably back to the most successful one was probably when was Calvin Phillips in there with England, with Rice. Yeah,
with Rice,
I wouldn't say he's a similar player, but obviously there was a lot of noise about Calvin Phillips at the time, got a big move, etc. But I think Rice likes those sort of complementary players who can really help him in there. But going back to the style of play, like you say, he's got that, what I like about that scruffy style that I meant as a compliment is that it doesn't look, prescribed and things. And like you said there, he can break lines with his runs because he gets his arms up and he's,
loves the big legs across the
He reminded me a little bit of Barkley when Barkley broke through and he was bustling, he went to City, and when Barkley gets on and going, he gets going. And probably Barkley a bit more athletic than him. Yeah. And obviously, Gascoigne, not comparing him to Gascoigne, what you say, but Gascoigne getting his arms up, protecting himself. He's got a real good that he gets in amongst people and he gets their arms across and he breaks lines with those movements in there. I would say for me, the next stage when I watch this stuff is the final third things.
Yeah, I had this down as well.
And I know if you're saying, well, he's a 6 and things, but he scored a goal against Southampton last year.
Lovely.
And I watched it and I was like, oh, you're an 8.
Yeah.
You're an 8. That's an 8 run.
Tuchel called him and Wharton up in the same camp. And he said Wharton's more of a 6, Anderson's more of an 8, even though he played him as a mobile 6.
And he actually used those words, mobile 6, didn't he?
And it kind of gives you so you can imagine this is Elliot Anderson. The goal was actually scored from around this part of the pitch, wasn't it? And I think when I was looking at him, I actually have wrote down in my notes, so I'll go down to it. So I've got major strengths and potential development, and want to see him between the lines way more. See what he can do with his hips taking the ball in the small spaces. And I think that's and I think that is where
very good. Up there, that's the next thing.
I think one thing I noticed with him, like you said, the arms. I also like that because he's 5'10", he's not a massively imposing player. He really uses his legs a lot, like in duels, and gets his legs across. I've got this example here. He's playing Bournemouth away. Tyler Adams is pressing him. And you can actually see how Anderson's back foot, when he's got the ball on his left side, Anderson's back foot is sort of holding off Tyler Adams. And he rolls Tyler Adams, spins out, plays a 1-2, and then shifts again, as we're saying, out of the cover shadow of the midfielder, offers to the ball. He's took it on the right side of the play here, and he just straps a ball straight into Awani's feet, and then they get going down the right side. And I just think that he's just got such good pace of play. I think he's got a real good feel to it, and I'm not sure from your perspective, but from a technical, fundamental perspective of a midfielder, what do you want your midfielder to do on the ball? I want him to show for it. I want him to demand the ball. I want him to play it when it's on, circulate when it's not, slow it down, speed it up. And I think that feel is something you can't really, well, you can coach it from a young age, but I feel like when you get senior midfielders now, it's very hard to learn the tempo.
He just feels like a bit of a street footballer to me at times in the way that he plays, and I'm sure Dyche will love him. I think Dyche will really, really love him. And it's funny because we had a look at some things, didn't we, where when Nuno played him, and Ange had him for only obviously a short period of time, but his numbers were really, really good under Ange. Because Ange, the type of obviously possession and where he was playing for them, and then obviously Dyche will love him. I just think the next step for him is, and we talk about £100 million footballers and who dictates who pays what these days. But for me, this final third, so again, when I was doing a deep dive, obviously there's some good moments, but I thought there was a lot of overhit crosses. I thought the threaded passes at times were just a little bit off or hopeful. Some of his shots at times were, I'm thinking, I'm not too sure, that's a shot on there. Could there be a little bit disguised? Because he is two-footed as well. And he's got a nice disguise that he can take it offline both sides. So I'd like to see the next evolution of him. Whether that comes in a Sean Dyche team or not, I don't know, because I think that he'll be very, very happy with him being that creator, maybe getting it to wide players and obviously into Wood or to Igor when he's up there. And obviously Gibbs White likes to play in that pocket. Is there a world where Sangare allows him to play a little bit more? Between the lines with a Gibbs White in there. I'm not too sure if that'll happen in a Sean Dyche team. I think because the security that he'll want in there. But you're right. I love his wrap pass. He's got a great punch pass and things. He gets about the pitch. There's real honesty in his play, which I like. When I look at him as a coach, I thought there's real honesty in his play. There was nothing. I don't think I saw him dive once.
No, that's...
And let's have it.
There's a lot of diving.
Players, if they feel a little bit touched, they'll go down. I saw him. He was getting contact. We spoke about that low centre gap. There was contact. He wasn't going down. He wanted to play through. And I thought there was a real honesty and streetwise about him. A bit like Palmer in the way... Not saying they're the same players, but the way that Palmer plays is that I don't really want to get fouled because I'm not taking the free kick, so I want to get on it type thing. But also interesting where I say I want him to get better in there. He does take corners. He does take set pieces, and although he scored more penalty, scored penalty for England in the 21s. And actually, he scored I think 3 or 4 in cup games last year for Forest. He's got a real good rap penalty in him as well. So I'm thinking, okay. I think that's still to come for. I think there's still to go. And he scored a good goal. I think it was at Tottenham away where he got a little bit of ricochet, but it was a good strike. But I watched, because obviously I broke it down, watched his game, watched his clips, then I watched his goals, and I was like, okay, these are penalties. These are penalties. So, and also assists as well. There was a couple where I think he got for Anthony last year, Anthony Langer. So, and he was in sort of like the left-hand side channel positions, cutting it back for those. So I'd love to see a world where actually we see Elliot Anderson a little bit further forward, playing in those little pockets, like you say, in the final third. Whether that happen or not, but I think that would be the next step of his evolution for me as a coach. Already a very, very, very good player. But that excites me to see, okay, well, what's the next stage? Because as a coach, we're always looking, what's the next to come from him?
I've got on the screen right now just to show you sort of his open play touch map this season. We can see that, as Neil was just saying then, somewhat of a deeper midfielder, but definitely sort of playing on that left-hand side and playing in front of the defence and in this left pocket here. So I've also got another one to show you his line-breaking passes, and again, we can sort of see how much he's controlling the centre, a lot of diagonals and splitting lines from left to right. And this line-breaking passes screen, 127 line-breaking passes already this season, which is absolutely ridiculous, by the way. And I just think this is a player who could be the next big midfielder export to someone. And I think if I was going to say selfishly, I'd love him at Manchester United. I think he's that type of player that Manchester United have got a really uncontrolled environment where a lot's chop and changing. And me and Neil have spoke a lot about plug and play and adapting to a team, and you drop him in England and he works really well and he develops really well. And he's gone through 3 managers already this season at Forest, and his performances haven't dipped in one of them systems. As we said before, on your screen again, I've got all of his stats from different managers. We can see Nuno and Sean Dyche, All of them are very, very good. Under Nuno, he was a bit less of a carrier, but we can see them numbers going up there. His pass completion rate, obviously the highest under Ange Postecoglou, who's going to want that. But passes into the box are the highest under Sean Dyche than any manager. So we're talking about a player who's can do pretty much everything. I think you compared him to me from a complete package perspective as like a Milner, someone who can run hard, tackle well, win the ball, play with the ball, can play 6, 8, 10, can probably do a shift at fullback.
Well, that's exactly what I mean, and I meant that in the highest possible thing, because people might say, "Oh, Milner, Milner,
quality player."
Hang on, James Milner's won the Premier League at 2 different clubs, has played ridiculous amount of times for England, has won every single trophy going. I think Elliot Anderson, if he had a career like that, would be very happy. But it just gave me that, when you watch Milner at younger age, or probably even now, he's combative. He could go past players probably more, 2-3 years ago potentially. But his quality of his passes and the messages in his passes. So yeah, I originally saw Milner, and then I saw a little bit of Barkley in terms of the ball carrying and things like that. And I know people maybe in the new world go, Milner.
Yeah. He's
James
a quality
Milner's
player.
a wonderful footballer, by the way, and you ask any peers that have played with him, if Elliot Anderson got to the point of James Milner, then I think he's done very well.
Would you say? Because I'm looking at teams who are to step up from Forest, who need a midfielder. I'm already looking at the likes of, Manchester United are there for me. I think Liverpool could do with a box-to-box, robust carrier passer on the ball, can drop in at all different angles.
I think they need a 6 more.
Yeah, I think they need a big,
which may push Gravenberch forward a little bit, maybe potentially.
So I just think potentially a free run at a player like that. Maybe Spurs could do with someone like that, a bit more of a ball player.
It wouldn't surprise me if Newcastle, if they got the money, would
welcome
him back. If they maybe we're going to shift somebody out there potentially, because I think we know the reasons why he went to Newcastle.
Yep.
So
PSR and all that.
Yeah. So maybe Newcastle into him. I think the only thing I would say with United is United need a lot of mobility in there again. So obviously he gives mobility. Does he give top draw mobility, as in a Caicedo? I can say back in the time, obviously Belieber, get the pronunciations right, at Brighton. Does he offer that type, which may United need more in terms of the ground coverage? And although all those stats are there, I just wonder, I think it'd be a very, very good player in there. But I'm just thinking, is that now if you've got somebody next to him, alongside him,
then you're looking at something.
Then you are talking something special. So, but 100% plug in and play. And then again, going back to that Milner comparison, plugged him in at Newcastle, Leeds, Villa, Liverpool, City.
Different environments.
He's been outstanding wherever he goes. So that's the type, I think, what you're referring to as a plug-in player there, that you know pretty much straight away what you're getting. A manager knows what he's getting. I don't think there's going to be any drastic changes or settling in period with him, etc.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go on to this one last thing, because I thought this was extraordinary when I did ask Opta for it. So, Premier League 25-26 season, we've got Elliot Anderson's top line stats, if you like, and we can see players 23 and under in the centre midfielder and defensive midfielder rank. There is about 9 or 10 of these categories that he ranks first in. Progressive carries, dribbles completed, fouls won, passes into the penalty area, line breaking passes, defensive line breaking passes, which again alludes to that getting forward, playing in behind a little bit more. Possession won. I think he's been an extraordinary player for about 10 months, really. I think he's been lights out, and it's not a surprise he's in the England team. I think a lot of people will be calling for him, if he continues this, to start in the World Cup. I don't disagree with that at the current point of recording. And yeah, I just think he's brilliant. I will say sort of what you said there, the mobility. I did think in a low block or a mid block, I thought his first step backwards to his own goal, or if a runner's running off him at pace, I don't think he's got. Caicedo's probably the best player I can think of in my head who has that first step out.
That's my worry, is that I think when he's tight and he's got the contact, because of his hippie in a good way, he's 5'10", he can get his body in and things like that. I worry, obviously we've spoke about Doku in the previous episode.
A player like that.
But a player like that, listen, that's a high extreme. but even players, I wonder about that, his ability maybe to, in a 1v1 sort of turning situation, which a Caicedo, a Kante, and obviously previous players, give you that. I just worry that if at United, I think United needs somebody to break that up a little bit at source and things, and then allow other people to play. I just wonder, but I have no problem at all that if he was plugged in at United, he would be a very good player and a success. I wonder whether the evolution of that would be he would still need somebody alongside him potentially to do it.
I was looking at Manchester City. I was just thinking Manchester City. Then obviously they got to Gianni Reinders from AC Milan, and he's more of that ball carrier through midfield. And I remember they were in for Morgan Gibbs-White, and I wonder now, will their head be maybe turned by this play from Elliot Anderson, showing that he can probably play in a 100 pass a game team, probably play box to box, probably be a ball carrier, can probably play between the lines, play in front of the defence if needed. Obviously, they've got Nico and Rodri there, but don't have to worry too much about that. But if I'm looking at maybe a Kovacic replacement, I think he's a player who Manchester City, if they've got that money, which it appeared they did with the Morgan Gibbs-White sort of dealings, does feel to me that that's a player that would go to City, play 10 years at City and smash it. I don't know why.
Played devil's advocate, the only thing I would say would Calvin Phillips be in their review mirror, and potentially Grealish. Yes, Grealish has gone and won trophies there, and I consider that a success. He's he's gone and won some big trophies there and things. So I just wonder whether he's got that trust in the English system again from there. We'd love to see it from an English coach's perspective that, yes, 100% the big money's on these players and stuff. I think it's interesting, and maybe it's a separate episode to see the comparisons with Wharton. Yeah. And when I say comparisons, I don't like doing comparisons, but
what does one do better than the other?
What does one do better than the other? What does how do they complement? Do they complement each other? Is
that the same size out there?
Is that something for Tuchel to think about? Is he thinking about that potentially? So I've got one thing I want to ask about, and this might go through as a short potentially. There was a goal, first game of the season, and it will be classed as a line-breaking pass. And I want to watch it over again. I've watched it a couple of times, and Chris Wood scored against Brentford.
I remember the one through the middle.
I want to ask the viewers. Maybe we put it up. Is that a block tackle? Or has he seen the run of Wood and he's gone to play it from there? Yeah. So maybe we watch that.
Does he actually mean it?
Does he mean it? Because maybe that's the poor footballer centre midfield here who I was going to smash
play it off.
And then it goes through like, what a pass. I don't know. We'll see. But maybe we'll put that one up and see. Let the viewers.
I'll put the still on the screen for people who don't know what he's talking about. On face value, it looks like one of the best assists I've ever seen.
Exactly.
But he doesn't pick his head up to see him, and he just appears in the final third. Wood takes it round the keeper, and it looks like one of the best goals I've seen in terms of the assist point of view. But
we'll see.
His quality, and there's absolutely no pressure on him. Obviously, it's early days still at Nottingham Forest. They are going through chop and change, and it does appear like he's only going to get better. And I think Sean Dyche is a manager who has clearly appreciated him enough. He's going to play him, keep playing him.
We spoke about the Rice situation. Yes. When Rice was at West Ham, I think Rice was a year older when he left West Ham. But it was at that stage, wasn't it, where West Ham, Rice was doing wonderful numbers in an okay team. Yes, I know he went on and won the Conference League with West Ham at the time, but was bouncing around that mid-table, which obviously Forest had a good season last year, not as much so this season. And the comparisons with Rice and how people were like, is Rice £100 million player? This, and then Rice has gone on and gone on again. And I think personally will go again with even more better players around him. And you watched him in that Latvia game and a couple of the games, and you could see a little swagger about Anderson. So I think we spoke about, are there similar comparisons to Rice's last season at West Ham with Anderson's maybe
coming
possibly
into getting his chest out?
Sorry, Forest fans.
Yeah. I remember Rice started scoring more though in that West Ham season, and he come out and he was a bit more like, I think he scored. I can't remember the Europa League conference game that he scored in, but he scored a big goal in one of the games, and he was almost like, oh right, okay, this is a player. And I think that the size of Rice as well before he moved, and obviously now still, that is the extra 30 million you're paying for. The sheer size and power of him.
Mobility.
It's just amazing. And I'm really interested to see what will happen with Elliot Anderson, but the lad's in no rush, and he will probably definitely go to the World Cup. So, any last words?
No, that's it. Just excited to see development and see if maybe the next phase comes into it. And like I say, he should definitely be on that plane.
Definitely, 100%. So thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to like, comment and share the video. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. We're here, weekly content, and hopefully we'll see you again next time. See you later.